So, Mr. Stanilenko, first question to you. So, what we would be interested, or what you can present, what is happening? Okay, sorry. You have heard the keynote speeches from Mr. Wegner, Mr. Geike. You have heard what we are currently planning in Germany on those issues. What we would be interesting, how the work in your ministry relates to that, and where you see steps in Poland which are in that direction, or maybe where there has to be new initiatives. I know that there have been a couple of initiatives established in the recent years, like the Future Industry Platform Foundation, but maybe you can go a little bit more also in the way of cooperation, how also countries can learn from each other and work in this area.
I will leave the details of future industry platform activities to Mr. Soldate, who's in charge of the process. I might say something from the helicopter view. What was presented is mainly relevant to the suppliers of the machines and software to the world customers. We structurally, as economy, are rather on the demand side. So it is a infrastructure of the 21st century market, that the members of the market, the participants of the market might understand each other, that minimizes the asymmetry of information, and it creates the so-called famous European level playing field. Ultimately, it is, from my perspective, the question of competition. That means whether this kind of activities is supporting newcomers, does it create new barriers for enters, or it diminishes these barriers. And as far as the requirement of learning is fulfilled, it diminishes the barriers. And the question and the challenge of the Industry 4.0 economy is that you must learn a lot, understand all these quite complicated issues, being not an expert and creator of the devices, but also being a customer. So the challenge from the state policy is to how to support and supply the customers with the knowledge which they sometimes don't want to have because they're not interested, because they feel their job being still on the side of the OT. So from our perspective, and the main specific of our approach is to so to say make an enlightenment machine which provides the knowledge for those who feel that they are somehow ready for some kind of transformation, but they still fear this transformation effort because they lack the knowledge. They usually say, when we ask them, they lack the money, which is not true. They almost always have money, but they don't know how to invest and what. What would be the roadmap for this investment? In what should we invest first? What is a complementary asset when I invest in digital things? What is when I have a machine, what is actually a complementary asset? Is it a software only, or rather it is infrastructure of knowledge in my company? What my employees should know in order to be able to use and extract the whole value out of the systems, because you may have, Porsche in your garage, but you may drive it only 60 miles per hour, which is the Porsche is not designed for. And what we face is actually the lack of awareness also in the community of experts. Because this last photo was the giants on which shoulders we lay. The guys know all the intricacies, but how many really such people are in the world? I don't know, 1,000 to 2,000, and the economies will need this knowledge as a kind of a basic knowledge for buying, investing, plugging, understanding all these things. So there's plenty of educational effort, and from the perspective of history of economy or history of technology, it is this factor that was a crucial leverage of the implementation of technologies. Most of the technologies in history, the breakthrough technologies from steam, power loom, I don't know, locomotives and electricity took 40 years to be implemented. Mm-hmm. And it was not because the engineers were unaware of the complications. They were, and they mostly solved them more quickly. The most difficult part was usually this human part. And that's, I don't know how to say it, this coherent with the, I don't know, Harvard Business Review papers on AI, that this is organization, people that are not ready. So this human part starts to be weak part. So in my perspective, the pragmatic directive out of this effort is to have the biggest possible platform of sharing this knowledge. That means translating this into Polish, publishing on the, so to say, website of the platform, but also having industrial associations, members at least, being a part of the training. That means the platform may provide the materials, may provide the knowledge in a nutshell, but somehow some people must be hoarded on the meeting or on the digital meeting. We are ready for that. We have arranging partnerships with training centers. And we train, at this stage, we train digital innovation hubs, because what we find, they must be trained also. Mm-hmm. In order to have the entrepreneurs to be trained, you must train the trainers. So during this process, you already can standardize the knowledge from the very start. And this is something which are really eager to focus on this year.
And that's also a common effort we have to do transnational in Europe, right? You do together. And thank you very much. Maybe this gives me a good opportunity to give the microphone, or take a microphone to Ray Pinto. He also has a short presentation with a couple of slides, because as a European association, you have put together a strategy, and also I know in the strategy, especially at the point of skills and digital skills, but not on the digital, but also on the technical digital level, will be a key point forward. And maybe, Ray, you can present what you have put together, and maybe how it helps us also to go to the challenges we have heard here.
Thank you, Martin. I don't have a clicker, so I'll just, oh, there it is. Okay, I'll just grab that. All right, excellent. Thank you very much. I'll just take a couple of minutes, and obviously many people in this room and many of our national trade associations and many of the companies in this room have been behind the development of what we are recommending for tomorrow's industry strategy. And this has been developed and discussed with the European Commission, so I'm definitely looking forward to reading it and seeing what we can see on our side in regards to what will be in there. We have a simple message. So, when and we'll be talking about this later on, when we're looking about how can we have an engagement, which is our primary role at Digital Europe, with the policymakers across Europe and in Brussels, there needs to be a political message. And the political message is a simple one. In light of what you've been hearing today about all the stuff that we need to do, we got to make sure that the next Commission has the right focus on achieving what industry needs. And to date, there's been a lot of rules when it comes to digital that's been primarily focused on e-commerce. They were necessary, they were important, that's fine. But now, as we move towards making the European Union competitive, we got to remember one thing. It's less business to consumer. It's about business to business. It's about industry. And we need to make sure the focus is kept on industries operating in Europe. And we have just some simple areas that we want to highlight. The first is, and I'm going to generally touch to what you see on the PowerPoint, but more want to communicate the message. We need a strong framework. This is a legal framework. This is a framework of how the European Commission itself and the EU needs to drive leadership globally, but also within the internal market. We need a single market that has less fragmentation and that can cooperate and move forward quickly. And that means being able to be focused on the investments, putting the investments in the right place, and driving all the different rules that will make industries in Europe very successful. We need open markets. And as you can see, there is a two-way relationship in regards to many of the European companies that have spoken here today on not only how they operate here in Europe, but how they operate internationally. So markets need to be open, but also at the same time, the EU will have an opportunity to demonstrate leadership in opening markets, and we may touch upon that later on in the panel. This is crucial technologies, and we've touched upon it today. We've touched upon about the emerging technologies of AI and IoT and 5G, and as I read in a leaked document, potentially 6G. But it also means how do these technologies digitally transform the vertical areas, from healthcare to manufacturing to mobility and energy. And then, obviously, this is something that has been raised several times. It looks easy, but it's not. Getting skills to be harmonized in an area where the European Commission does not have competence, it's member state-driven, then how do we do that? And it is quite difficult, and it demands a lot of political courage to ensure that these skills are being put in place, reforming the education sector, but also upscaling and giving SMEs the opportunity to grow and grow fast. And then finally, we've talked about this a lot today, sustainability. I don't think I need to reemphasize this point, but really it is about remembering digital technologies and the potential it has, as you can see on this graph, to decarbonize, to drive energy efficiency, to reduce the waste in resources that cannot be forgotten as we move forward putting in these Green Deal regulations in place.
Yeah, thank you very much. We as ZVI, we have highly participated in putting together this document, and I recommend everybody to go on the website, digitaleurope.org, to download it and see this. Mr. Wojcicki, I might come to you. You also heard the comments from Mr. Stenenko, who unfortunately had to leave already, but maybe you can give us your take on Industry 4.0 in Poland and also the cooperation between countries. You told me before you have a little bit provocative view.
Yeah, I really believe that this buzzword of upscaling is the most important one. Well, clearly, to be a bit provocative, I don't think that we should discuss very much about the Polish Industry 4.0. Well, that's good that we had a bit of the German Industry 4.0 as the scale it's bigger, but still upscaling for me is the buzzword in two dimensions. One, in the two dimensions. So first one is upscaling in the legal framework. I don't really believe that we'll have any Industry 4.0 at the national level. So by the way, we even see that the German Industry 4.0 is already somehow German-French. So to be provocative, I would say there will be no Industry 4.0 without the federal laws at the European level regulating those domains. So being it the IoT, being it this industrial dimension which you've shown on those connectors and the standards and the clouds, etc., but also at the level of artificial intelligence. I know it's not the subject, but I'm always repeating. Well, I'm not always, but I'm presenting it to you. There will not be a brilliant Polish artificial intelligence, as there will be no brilliant German artificial intelligence compared with the one in the United States having 4 times more samples, or compared to the Chinese one having 20 times more samples. So clearly for me, upscaling at the regulatory level, So by the European legislations, obviously they cannot be developed by the MEPs having eventually limited access to the real knowledge. It should be done in the partnership with the industries, but at the European level. Otherwise, we'll speak about the small industry 3.9, 3.8, whatever, name it. It's my copyright. So that's at the level of the regulations. And the second element is upscaling at the level of the companies being involved. So we heard, like, I think 1 hour ago from this stage, that the SMEs are the backbone of the European industry. True. But by pure chance, at all those meetings, you don't have SMEs. Even the great German SMEs are not being really very much presented on the stage. This is about big companies, which are then kind of developing or taking the SMEs with them. Let's not expect, as the minister said, that we'll have Polish SMEs having ideas about the standards for the connectors to be placed in the smart washing machines. So I think when you speak about, because today I've been at the meeting with Ursula von der Leyen and all the important commissioners last week. They haven't been afraid of coronavirus, so we have had a meeting at Business Europe, and they all spoke about this new approach to the competition. But be aware, new approach to the competition for them, it's a forbidden word. It shouldn't be said this way. It's a carbon tax. What they see, the new competition, it's how to block the carbon-loaded goods to be imported to the carbon-free Europe. But for me, competition we need is how to create the big European companies capable to develop knowledge on the big European market of data and Industry 4.0. If we restrain ourselves, how to prevent the poor Polish SME or a poor German SME from the carbon-loaded importation from the United States, it will create a trade war, but it definitely will not help us to develop something mineable at the global level. So for me, important is upscaling on the regulatory level with the participation of knowledgeable people and industries, not pure politicians. And second, upscaling of industry. Let's don't fool ourselves forever. I mean, it's about all those integrations. We have telco guys next door. They are claiming for consolidation for last 20 years. We have other digital industry claiming for, and at the same time we have new commissioners. Now they have a new data about the carbon tax, which is not a tax, I know, it's a carbon whatever adjustment mechanism, but it is a tax. Instead of speaking about how to create strong European companies, then obviously pulling upscaling the European SMEs with a common framework.
Yeah. Great, thank you. And I mean, that's a very good way to approach Mr. Soldati, because we have heard two things. We have heard, yeah, we don't need a Polish Industry 4.0, but at the same time, I think Mr. Wojciechowski was also speaking more about the technologies and the scale of stuff, but you still have to organize on the local level. And I know that last year you have created a new foundation here in Poland, and maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the work that you are now doing and also how you tackle the problems that we heard from the ministry about getting the knowledge out, distributing the skills. I think that's one key point of what you now have created.
Okay, thank you. Some facts and figures about platform. We can say that really platform started activity on the market 5 months ago. So it means in September last year, officially was introduced to the market on the basis of a law which was announced in January last year, and on the basis of this preparation for activity, and later we started our activity on the market. And what we can say, start was, it was, let's say, common initiatives from bottom up and top down. In 2016, in strategy of government, a clear delegation for creating platform as integrator of initiatives on Polish market for reindustrialization was announced. And also this year, a group of people who were very addicted to idea Industry 4.0 on the market started their activity. It was this initiative for Industry 4.0 in Poland. And in a short time, both initiatives started to cooperate on the basis of this concept of creating a platform, Industry 4.0 platform or future industry platform, because in Poland we are calling this future industry platform was created and the platform started activity. And what I can say, how it works. And first of all, what it is. It is state foundation. It means that opposite to forum, for example, in Germany, we have, it is legal entity, first of all, and the second one, it is working on the base of, at the moment, only on the base of public money. It means this public money are used for starting activities and measures which were described earlier, and it means that oriented on creating the awareness, on development competencies, on orientation of companies in direction of Industry 4.0, and also for reduction of risk in during implementation. So it is concept of platform when we are talking about direct influence on the market. But what is important, in my opinion, the first stream, because first stream it is like in Germany, collecting knowledge from the market about requirements, about needs, and transfer this knowledge like a recommendation for decision makers. Decision makers, it means government and other institutions. We can say platform is the voice of the market. The voice of the market related to market needs. And from other side is the second stream is transferring measures and activities directly to companies to support them in transformation. So it is general, let's say, overview of platform mission. And of course, when we are talking about vision 2030, very similar like in Germany, we are talking about creating ecosystem and very strongly oriented on interoperability, on autonomy, and of course, sustainability. It is similar like in German platform. And it is general approach which we can say define like standardization of understanding Industry 4.0 and understanding the future of industry. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And as I have heard also in the next 2 or 3 weeks, there's a meeting here in Poland of Ms. Emilewicz and Mr. Altmaier from Germany and the platform and your foundation. You also celebrate a new partnership. Jens Geico, maybe I can come here to you from the platform point of view, and what we've heard that we have to increase educating people, like we do very wonderful, super detailed work, but how to get the message out. And I know that traditionally in Germany, the platform has a very strong trilateral cooperation with France and Italy, but when you now see that also, especially in Poland, which is a very important partner, especially in the electronic industry and the value chains. So what we see and what we maybe in Germany can also do more to create a more common European approach and to help also initiatives like this one to get the knowledge to the companies also in other countries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can I use this microphone? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the question. Yes, indeed. When the Industry 4.0 topic started a few years ago, this trilateral cooperation between Germany, France, and Italy was established. To my knowledge, it was established at that time because these 3 countries had something like a platform at that time. And within this trilateral cooperation, we also talk about standardization. But when I took over this initiative, I immediately say we need to expand it to a European level. Because even France, Italy, and Germany are too small within Europe, and we need the power and the support from all countries. So therefore, last year we established a kind of European counterpart for standardization, which is a so-called coordination group from the 3 European standardization organizations, so CEN, CENELEC, and ETSI. There's a coordination group and on smart manufacturing. And just last week, I saw an email that 2 experts from Poland have been nominated to this group, so I'm very happy about that. And hopefully they can join for the next meeting. So this is I'm very glad about. So the first message is, indeed, we started on the trilateral level, Germany, France, Italy, but clearly the focus is to expand it to Europe and also to have international standardization projects. On the upscaling, this is indeed a quite important topic. Because we really have here a kind of new infrastructure, and we need to learn, and we need to bring to the industry this know-how, and therefore in Germany we made a quite good experience with this cooperation with the Lab Network Industry 4.0, because these are pilot projects. Very often they are government-funded pilot projects, not all of them, but many of them. And this is a kind of, here the small and medium-sized enterprises can gain practical experience. And at the same time, it's a kind of also train the trainer, because we know what is important to bring the know-how to the companies. And we have, I know that the Lab Network Industry 4.0 has also some international projects, so with partners, for example, I'm aware of one project with Italy, but I know there are also contacts here to Poland, but so I'm not aware if there is already an actual project. So maybe you can also think about this kind of triangle picture and have a kind of counterpart, and then we can establish the projects between Polish and German companies, or between Polish and French companies, for example, and so on and so on. And I think this is a very pragmatic approach to bring the know-how to the small and medium-sized enterprise, and also a way for upscaling.
Okay, I know that's already lunch started, but we continue a little bit, but we soon come to an end. I just want to go back to you, Ray, because I know to come a little bit more to how we also deliver this to the politics. I know that at Digital Europe you have established a Digital Manufacturing Executive Council. Afterwards I come to you, Dieter, because you're a member of that. But maybe, Ray, you can first tell us what that is and how we get this message also to the Commission.
Yeah, sure, Martin. Thank you. We formed the Digital Manufacturing Executive Council, of which Dieter Wegener is the vice chair, representing ZWEI. We did it because again, to my previous point, it was becoming a little bit of a concern that that the politics of the European Union could be distracted, could actually go into a different direction and forget the one simple truth, that European industry are world leaders. If you look in aviation, who's the world leader? It's Airbus. If you look in manufacturing, we have them here in the room. European companies not only lead in Europe, but they lead globally. And it's just want to make sure that when it comes to developing these regulations, sure, it's not as exciting as social media or business to consumer, it's even hard with my kids to get them very excited about what manufacturing, the innovation that's happening, which is incredible, to be communicated. So this group of our members have come together. We're about 20 at the moment, companies from across the world in many different sectors. Their executives have come to talk about what are the standards. How can innovation and these sectors drive sustainability? What can we do in regards to industrial data and to exploit that data and to drive European leadership? These are all areas that this group meets, puts together papers, meets senior decision makers, and just keeps hammering that message again and again to remember about this industrial sector. And if you get that political message right, then you will hopefully have the focus to drive the many different rules that are going to come out now in these strategies that you've heard in last month and tomorrow. And Europe can have an opportunity that I think to bring manufacturing back to Europe, to drive growth in and leadership in the sectors it leads, and to be able to drive change and our European values globally. So these are opportunities that this group is trying to ensure governments not only in Brussels but in the member states remember.
Yeah, thank you. And now to you, Dieter. And yeah, since we want lunch, maybe we start with you now, the closing round. So maybe you can share again with us your message on the DMAC in Digital Europe, and also how we better bring IT and OT together to achieve what we want to achieve, and also maybe your key takeaway, and then let's make sense.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. I think previous members of this round already stated that small, medium-sized enterprises are the backbone of our economy in Europe. And so we need to catch them up and to bring them in, to integrate that. And that means we could do it. And the DMAC, what Ray Pinto showed up, is a council which can convince the European Commission on doing things with direction of the digital manufacturing at Europe. That means we need to start on a very small level, go step by step in small steps, and especially to get the buy-in of the small, medium-sized enterprises which have not so many investment capabilities as big companies like Siemens. And so the digital nameplate, which I showed up today, is for me personally a keystone on that, because we can introduce it very simple on our EU Commission if they are convinced. Then we get rid of the paper documentation, all those rubbish, and then we have the same information on the internet available that needs some things. For example, in each country's member state, we need a server organization which handles this data for the product documentation to be secure, but that is something we can handle. And from my viewpoint, we should take that as a trigger to enable Europe to digitalization, because if the digital nameplate is rolled out in Europe, the small, medium-sized enterprises can easily catch up and take that information of their devices and put them into the cloud and make digital value add on this. And to be honest, the people understood that well. The only thing is where to invest, and I don't know who mentioned that. The question is, we have money, but where to put the money first? And that is not so easy if you go into the details. So for me, the digital nameplate, we should go on further, and I hope that we can do it in Brussels together with the DMAC, Ray, and yes, perhaps we can convince the politicians and the commissioners on that. And I would say, to make it very practical on the Poland, why shouldn't we do it on Poland as a starting country parallelly? Because it's just good to start with a pilot, just to have some companies who support this. And of course they can also support these activities and standardization, and of course on the DMAC.
Mr. Wojcicki, your final remarks after the discussion.
Well, they will be very short. And again, one, we have to defend the subject against, well, against, it's not a proper statement, but against the Green Deal somehow, to present it as a part of, because basically the buzzword will be the Green Deal, but which is not only about saving the planet, but also about building the new, stronger economy in Europe. So I really believe that we should use it. I've been last week to a meeting of Business Europe with Ursula von der Leyen and all the major commissioners. The good point is they are extremely aligned. It's the first time in my life that I see the Commission so much aligned on the same speech. So they passed one after the other and they repeat the same stuff.
Wow.
So it's already good news. Second good news is that, to the difference of the passed away Lisbon strategy, they have the understanding now that it's not enough to make the announcement and go home. So they speak about the next steps. And I think that if we make this subject, the 4.0 industrial, but also a bit green, it's a bit of marketing, but a bit green, which it is the case, but it's a question of presentation. So just make those blue slides green. It will help to use the green energy of the Commission.
Good idea.
And to make them understand that this is not only about us engineers playing with nicer toys, better connected clouds, blah, blah, blah. But this is translating not only about the better products, better competitivity, but also a better usage of the resources. So that's.
But you remember my green cable on the shop floor? I have already green, but we should do it more.
Mr. Soldati.
Good idea.
Okay, when we are talking about Industry 4.0, about Vision Industry 4.0 2030, I can say that the main topic is competency for Industry 4.0, and when we are talking competency, we are saying about technology, we are talking about knowledge, about skills, but also about attitude. And attitude, it is, in my opinion, a key point. And of course, in our activity of platform, we are strongly oriented on how to say, addressing or focusing on mentality. It means change attitude of small and medium-sized enterprises, and also change how to say, perspective of Industry 4.0. Very often, up till now, Industry 4.0 was recognized like technology issue. Later, strong change in business models. It means we were talking about result of technology and enabler for new business models. And now we are talking about green industry. We are talking about sustainability, openness for social topics like aging. It means that all these points should be considered when we are trying to switch mentality into, let's say, a new way and to new form. And it is a target for Platform Industry 4.0 in Poland.
Okay. Thank you very much. Very quick, Jens Geico, and then Ray, you have the last word.
Yeah, I would like to pick up the idea of establishing trust in a new technology, because right now we see, there are these digital technologies, and I think some politicians, whether they are in Brussels, in Berlin, or maybe here in Warsaw, they're a little bit afraid and say, is it really supporting our strategic goals like the Green Deal, or is it a story even making worse? And I think in the past, the industry in Europe showed that they are very responsible, and this is one of the success stories of the European single market. So by this new legislative framework, we say the regulator sets defines the strategic direction and the essential requirements, but it's up to the industry to develop, or the economy in general, to develop the standards and to fulfill these strategic targets. And just one impressive picture, if we look about electric safety and road traffic, we have 100 times the fatalities in road traffic than with electric safety. And for road traffic, we have regulation, and for electric safety, we have standards. I think that's a good argument. Let's go for it, and then we can establish trust also for the digitalization. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I think I'd like to just continue your line of thinking. It's very important you let industry to develop some of these standards. We're going to be moving now, and I have a list here. I could literally talk for the last 10 minutes, which I won't, on the list of areas that the Commission are now going to be looking at. And their market access rules, the Conformité Européenne on AI, there's going to be type standards for autonomous vehicles, there's labeling, code of conduct, the Cybersecurity Act, potentially new rules for data centers, liability. It goes on and on. So, you know, work with us. We have experts, and we can develop these, you know, in the right way to help Europe, you know, show leadership.
Great, thank you. Actually, the 10 minutes is a lunch break, so, and I think it was an extraordinary panel with very highly and interesting speakers and panelists here. Thank you very much. Thank you for the attention who stood here. We had to fight against Corona and against lunch, so let's have a lunch break now. And as we as ZVI and Keyggate cooperate very well together, let's hope that also in the Industry 4.0 area, Poland and Germany can work together. Thank you very much.